Hey, Nathan,
Yes, Blake.
how long do you think I should leave it before I tell the nice people at home that wrestling.fandom.com lied to me about this episode of Raw?
I feel like maybe we should just sort of try to not mention it, leave that in the past, because I'm sure they have a bigger fan base than we do.
Not after they hear this ridiculous, egregious error, they won't.
No, okay. Oh yes, after this they're gonna run from them and say, how could we have been so blind to follow such false prophets?
I hope someone got fired for this blunder. So according to wrestling.fandom.com, the commentators of tonight's episode, March the 8th, 1993 of Raw, was Vince McMahon and Bobby Heenan. Except it wasn't.
No. Of all the things to lie to us about, you don't lie to us about Rob Bartlett not being in an episode.
I was so excited. I was going to bring streamers, balloons, party blowers. I'm glad I didn't bother now.
Can I ask
Right, let's fucking get on with it then.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. There we go. Intro, now. Bam.
Hello and welcome to Going in Raw. My name is Blake. I'm a wrestling superfan and I've got my tag team partner over the internet this week. It's Nathan. Say hello, Nathan.
Hi, I'm Nathan.
That's Nathan, by the way. He's not such a big wrestling fan as me.
No,
but
especially
he's
not
getting
after
there,
this
I think.
episode of Raw.
It was quite dull, wasn't it? But don't switch off, please, because we've got some spicy hot takes.
I've got a double coffee. I'm going to be full of beans for you this episode. So, Blake,
So,
would you like to show us where we get started?
I would. So the show opens up on Hulk Hogan, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, and Jimmy Hart in Freddy Krueger's boiler room.
Yeah, a.k.a. the Mega Maniacs. Sorry, I put them down as the Mema Maniacs. But yeah, the Mega Maniacs.
Now, they're doing nursery rhymes with clever new words.
Is that what they were doing?
Well, Hulk Hogan sort of just jiggles a little bit, and then he goes like, oh, Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall, but that doesn't bother Brutus the Barber Beefcake at all.
Yeah, then he said, but that is nothing related to the Brutus Barber Beefcake. It's like, okay, so why did you bother telling us about it then? And yeah, Hulk Hogan looks very strange. Like, he's so oily and wobbly, he looks like a bowl of jelly that's not quite fresh and just been taken out of the fridge.
You know, in like cartoons where like a character's lost in the desert and they see like a shimmery illusion? He looks like one of them, like a mirage.
He looks incorporeal.
Nice use of the word incorporeal. That's the Going in Raw word of the day. Bing, 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 bing.
Mark that off your bingo cards.
So they're having a little chat about the match they're going to be having with Money Incorporated at WrestleMania that's just been announced. And they're just sort of talking about their training regime and sort of like what they're doing. And so Hulk Hogan begins to punch Brutus the Barber Beefcake in the, like, pretend in the face.
Yeah.
Just going like, oh yeah, I've been like basically making him briefcase proof by using my forearms, which are like briefcases.
Which, you know, you don't do that to stabbing victims, do you? You don't just, I've just been stabbing her over and over again, so next time around she gets mugged, she's going to be immune to knives, I tell you.
Yeah, it seems not like a great way of going about it. I mean, it's like if you got a long line of parachuters' knees, parasailers' knees, and just let them smash him in the face over and over and over again.
Just spinning around in a circle.
They do some motorcycle boy chat. They say when they win the tag belts, they're going to put them on the front of their Harley Davidsons, and they're going to drive around on these Harley Davidsons.
Brutus has been saying that he's been trying to like snap off the blinkers and the headlights so they can fit the tag team belts on the front, and that's not going to make them road legal, Brutus.
I was about to say, they're going to fail their MOT doing that. Then again, they are wearing bright yellow and bright red boas, so you'd see them. They are talking about going to American places. I don't know. It wasn't Michigan, Georgia, Pennsylvania, or anywhere important, so I couldn't give a fuck.
Why do you know about those places?
I don't know. They just seem to stick out. And then in my favourite bit, Hulk Hogan sings. He says, "Oh yeah," he says, "We've got a new song that we've been working out to," and the song is "Getting to Know You, Getting to Know All About You."
And it's just so beautifully bizarre.
Now, the reason why I love this bit is because I remember telling Nathan, it's a bit of a sidebar, ages ago, when I used to live in a flat with a partner of mine, just to be irritating and annoying, first thing in the morning, like sort of 6, 7 in the morning, when we used to wake up, I used to just roll over, look at her dead in the eyes while she was still half asleep, and just start going, getting to know you, getting to know all about you. And then I'd just shove her in bed. Not in a violent way, just sort of like a little playful.
Not down the stairs or anything.
No. We lived in a flat, so there wasn't any stairs. Well, we had 3 flights of stairs because we lived on the top, so that would have been attempted murder, I suppose.
So that's the in joke explained.
Yes.
Shall we
Yes.
get into the body of the show? Actually, no, I just wanted to mention as well, Brutus does not feel like he's into this promo at all. Like, he's just sort of standing there playing with his scissors as he does. But, like, compared to the energy of Jimmy Hart and, because he's there as well, and Hulk Hogan, like, he's just, like, fairly reserved in comparison.
Yeah, he does seem like the odd one out charisma-wise. Like, you've got a big over-the-top character in Hulk Hogan. You've got a relatively loud and rambunctious character in Jimmy Hart as well. And then you've got Brutus Beefcake, like you say, who seems quite reserved and quite pulled off to one side, doesn't he, really? So a bit of a strange dichotomy. But, I mean, the 3 of them together, if all of them were that kind of over-the-top and kind of shouty and charismatic, it'd be like charisma overload. It'd be too much. So I like having a slightly introverted one that's kind of on the edge.
You're right. It'd
in
probably
more
be too
ways than one.
It would be too overpowering to have all 3 of them trying to shout for the centre of attention.
Yes. I mean, I don't know about you, but I remember sort of like being a kid and being in a room full of kids that are all had that same personality type of shouting over each other for attention and just finding it very overwhelming.
You didn't last long as a teacher, did you?
No, I didn't. So we go to the Raw titles. And then when we come back from the Raw titles, we get a look at our commentary team tonight, which is strange, Nathan, because I was led to believe that
You're never going to live this down, are you?
No, I'm never going to forgive him for it. Never forgive him, ever. So
But
we get a look at our commentary team. It's Vince McMahon, Mr. Sinister, Macho Man. He's dressed in like negatives. He looks like Mr. Sinister from the Marvel comics.
And so is Rob Bartlett. Like, everyone's dressed in black and white today, but like, Macho Man's wearing like this. It's still like glittery from head to toe. Just cowboy hat, like jacket, everything, boots, all like black with white stripes across it. I'm just thinking, I bet this is Macho Man's funeral attire. Like, he's running straight over to the cemetery after this is done.
Well, I mean, luckily this week a wrestler hasn't died before we sat down to begin to record, so we've got to get our bit of funerals and sort of the end times some other way, haven't we, really? Rob Bartlett's microphone doesn't work to start with, and I thought, yes.
Yeah, it's turned way down right at the beginning.
I loved it. In my head, Ode to Joy was playing.
But I gotta say, like, as an intro goes, all 3 of them did a great job of, like, getting the energy across of the episode. Like, it was a solid start from all 3, including Rob.
I think it's a really strong start all round because you had like a bit of a promo, the titles, and then all at the same level of energy going in. I feel like it's all working towards having quite a sort of kind of action-packed, sort of speedy, quick, fun afternoon of watching wrestling. So I was excited to start with.
Yeah, I was excited when I saw the commentary team really trying to give it their all to begin with, but then the first match started. Should we get into it?
Did you not like it? I thought it was all right. So we had El Matador, who's a long-term friend of the podcast, and a new character called Virgil, and they're taking on Money Inc. And as we got started, I kind of thought back to like the beginning days when we first started doing this. Like we've been doing this for thousands of years, but you know what I mean? And
yeah.
I sat down to record. I hit the record button. It felt like putting on a comfy pair of trousers. I was like, I found my groove now. I was like, I've got a bit of Matador coming later. I've got some Vince McMahon and Bobby Heenan, or so I thought.
Got some Tatanka. We love a bit of Tatanka.
Well, exactly, right? So I'm like, okay, now I'm getting the people that I like, the people I'm looking forward to seeing. I'm like proper into it. So we have El Matador and Virgil taking on Money Inc. Virgil comes out and he's got some serious Uncle Sam pants on. Like,
yeah,
they look like stars and stripes to the nines.
Looks like a walk-in barbershop. It's great.
Yeah, you're right. Like the pole that's outside the barbershop, you're completely right. That's exactly what it's like. IRS cuts a quick 2-second promo on Clinton.
Just more ragging on Clinton and the fact he's trying to make people pay fair taxes, but whatever.
Oh, what a rotter.
How dare he demand equal payment from the American people?
Oh, I'm so glad it's not happening now, Nathan. um, and then the bell rings, and we start off. So the Matador starts off in the ring with Ted DiBiase. They circle around each other. They have a lockup, collar and elbow. They kind of get pushed off the ropes, and the referee breaks it up. So we're going for like a nice, slow, organic start.
Just to pause you for a second. Isn't it DiBiase? Or is it Diabasi? We had this argument last time as well, I think. But I'm pretty sure it's DiBiase.
The Matador locks up with Ted.
Yeah.
That,
$1 Million
shall we just
Man.
call him Ted? Yeah, $1 Million Man. Okay. He locks up with Ted, the $1 Million Man.
It is DiBiase.
And it is DiBiase. Okay, so Ted DiBiase. The ref breaks it up. They circle. They lock up again. They go into the ropes. It's a really slow, nice, organic start. This happens 2 or 3 times. There's some chops and knees and strikes from the Matador to Ted. The Irish whips Ted into the corner. He reverses and gives him an elbow. Sorry, scrolling my notes down. There's a near fall. The head. Okay, so this is quite a cool spot. So on the ground, El Matador has Ted DiBiase in a headlock, but Ted quite cleverly keeps rolling him onto his back, so his shoulders are touching the mat. So he has to keep breaking the headlock because it's technically a pin. Do you want to weigh in on that? Do you think that's cool?
Oh, no. Sorry, I thought the way you ended that sentence, I thought you were going to continue. No. I thought this part was very cool, like because they were just rolling around, like getting each other in the pin. It looked like, and trying to get each other in a headlock. Yeah, it was cool. That's all I really have to say about it. It was probably my favourite part of the match.
I'm sorry to draw you into an opinion that you didn't have much opinion on. I apologise for sort of
fuck
pushing you into giving an opinion on that. They work their way back up to the feet. The Matador tags in Virgil, and Ted tags in IRS. They basically start doing the same thing. The headlock. They try and break it up, but Virgil keeps stuffing the breakout, so he keeps kind of leaning his weight on IRS and kind of forcing him back down to his knees. So for tag team champions, they are kind of on the back foot, like quite a lot of this, which is quite fun to see. There's an arm drag followed by a couple of clotheslines from Virgil. IRS rolls out of the ring. And there's a strange term here that I don't think I've heard before. Vince McMahon says he took a powder. And I think, to me, that means something completely different. Doesn't it you?
I think maybe he just, like, misspoke but didn't actually, like, retract what he said. I think he definitely meant took a pounding.
Do you think?
I reckon so. Because I can see how one could get from pounding to powder and then just sort of think, fuck.
I often go the other way. I often go from powder to pounding, so...
Just gives you that little energy boost that you need.
Right? So the Matador jumps IRS from behind, and with the ref distracted, Virgil and the Matador work over IRS in the ring. So Ted's tried to get in and help his tag team partner. The referee has turned around and gone, "What you doing? Stay out," and basically given the advantage to the good guys, who then work over IRS. So while that's all happening,
I should also say as well, like you mentioned earlier about Vince sort of maybe saying the word powder randomly. Like, this is the start of what feels like the commentary team kind of being all over the place tonight. I mean, Vince is doing well at, like, switching between, like, opinions, talking to the other people, and then getting back into talking about the action. He's doing all right there, but he is tripping over his words every now and again. Macho Man generally is quite low energy today, which is strange to hear from him. And Bartlett, while generally he is acceptable during this match, obviously because there is a non-white person in the ring, he is racist again. And he says that Virgil reminds him, he thinks that him and Montel Williams are the same person. He's just thinking of the first bold black person that comes to his head and says, there we go, that's who he looks like.
Moving on. So there's a near fall, and then we work our way into a wrist lock. Ted gets tagged in. So Ted kind of comes into the ring, and while the referee's distracted dealing with Ted, they fake a tag, and Virgil takes over. So they kind of like clap their hands together as one's going into the ring and one's coming out. So now it's Virgil versus IRS. So IRS has been in the ring this whole time, and they're just working him over, wearing him down, keeping him isolated. It's really good tag team psychology. And for two guys who don't tag together full time, like it's a very sort of, I think they mentioned they've done it once or twice before. They've got a lot of chemistry and a lot of organic chemistry.
They seem to have a lot of good communication between them, yeah.
which I think is great. And they're kind of really showing up the tag team partners who should have this synergy, being a bit disjointed and a bit rubbish, really, all over the place. So Virgil comes in, he takes over the arm lock on IRS, and then they get the catchphrase in, and they actually do it right this time on the
Yeah.
commentary team.
Uncensored, uncooked, uncut.
Yeah, and they even say, I can't believe we got it right.
Yeah, and that's upsetting because now we're no longer allowed to point it out when they get it wrong because it just becomes a joke for them. They're not taking it seriously.
Well, the thing is, I've tried writing jokes later, but then Rob Bartlett says something similar to my joke, so I've scrapped them.
It's like, no, I can't let myself be heard as on the same level as Rob Bartlett.
I felt like Icarus flying too close to the sun. That way madness lies. So they work their way up to their feet. They tag in the Matador. Virgil tags in the Matador, who gives him like a flying elbow for the top rope. There's some forearms. There's a wrist lock. IRS in the wrist lock keeps trying to get to his corner to tag in Ted, but he can't get to him. The Matador breaks the hold to kind of cover that distance between IRS and Ted himself and just punches him in the face,
Yeah.
which I appreciated. Just went over, bang him. Have that. They. Oh, okay. So then there's a fake tag back to Virgil, and then back to Matador. There's an ad. So there's an ad in the middle of it. And then when we come back, there's a running knee from IRS, and he finally manages to tag in Ted. And there's like a hokey leg attack double thing that they do. So IRS and Ted, with Matador on the ground, grab an ankle each and then pull his legs apart. But one of them, I think, slips. So the Matador's got to do his leg himself, if that makes sense.
Mm.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, it looked a bit hokey, but that's why the referee was distracted by Virgil trying to get in and help the Matador. The Matador then can't get to Virgil to tag in, so it's basically reversing the power rolls and reversing the spot because he's in a headlock. He's fading. Virgil works up the crowd, so he kind of like starts stamping his feet and clapping his hands, and the crowd are really behind the Matador and Virgil. They seem to be really into it.
Yeah.
So Matador kind of gets to his feet, feeding off the crowd, and he breaks out of the hold, and then they kind of awkwardly crash into each other. The Matador and Ted, I mean, like Ted comes off the ropes as Matador's running into him, and they kind of like bang into each other and both fall down.
Yeah, no, it's one of a fair few sort of clumsy looking just sort of clashes that happen during this match.
It obviously it was supposed to something was supposed to happen where both men were grounded because we're working our way into the hot tag from Matador to Virgil, but I don't think it was supposed to happen exactly like that, if that makes sense.
I should hope not, because it, like I say, it didn't look clean.
No. So Ted tags in IRS, and then on the other end of the ring, the Matador hot tags to Virgil. Oh man, this was fun. So he comes in and Virgil does, and he's getting like big punches in. Like he's punching IRS, he's punching Ted. It kind of goes from corner to corner with his Irish whips. He Irish whips him into the other corner, clotheslines him. Virgil like literally takes him out, and interfering Ted. He gets IRS up and gives him a scoop slam, which is really, really, really fun. And as he's going to run in and do the follow-up, he gets his foot tripped by Ted and falls down. So as Virgil gets up and turns around to deal with Ted, IRS hooks him for the suplex, and Money Inc. get the win. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. It's funny because I don't remember half of what you said happening. I'm not that I'm calling you a liar, but it's just...
I just sort of drifted off and made the match more fun, and then IRS comes in with a chainsaw. And
No, I think the opposite. I think I drifted off halfway through because we've spoken in the past about we were impressed with the Matador when we first saw him the first couple of times, and I don't think the Matador did a whole lot this time. Apart from the early rolling around, I was just kind of waiting for him to come in and do some really cool high flying stuff that he's done before, and there wasn't much from him. But Virgil was a nice surprise because am I right in saying this is the first time we've seen him?
This is the first time we've seen Virgil. Yes.
Okay, yeah, because he was an impressive wrestler.
I think maybe what it is because we had no expectations of him, whereas the Matador we had expectations that weren't met.
Yeah. Also, I just generally don't find Money Inc. particularly interesting in the ring.
Well, this is the thing, because I've written at the end here, it was a really damp squib ending.
Yeah.
And it was a really not convincing show from the champions. Like, I wonder how they got to be the champions with this kind of disjointed, disconnected, hokey, kind of nearly sort of botchy sometimes.
Yeah, this
kind
is
of wrestling style.
This is something that I've seen like later on down the line in like the early 2000s that we've watched. It's like there's always the trope of like there's the tag team heels who only really get where they are through cheating, but at the same time they shouldn't still be like bad wrestlers and still be winning just with cheating tactics.
Well, I think the perfect example is Edge and Christian, isn't it? That's who we're both thinking of.
Yeah, because they're incredible and they are sneaky.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, because I think sometimes with Edge and Christian, you could see them winning legitimately, but just to make sure, they've cheated as well.
Yeah.
Whereas these guys...
all the bases.
Yeah, and the thing, like I say, if it was against an established tag team, then, okay, struggling a little bit would make a bit more sense. But for two guys that occasionally get thrown together and not even be able to beat them convincingly, it was a really poor show. And I just know for a fact now, even if you didn't know it beforehand, Hulk Hogan and Brutus are going to kick the ever-loving shit out of them at WrestleMania.
Oh, of course.
Well, maybe not so much Barber, but definitely Hulk Hogan.
I was going to say, Hulk Hogan wouldn't come back if he's not going to win every match.
I mean, well, yeah, basically. There's a recap following that of Tatanka, our best boy. And he is basically just recapping how he has beaten Shawn Michaels twice in a row now, hyping up their match they're going to have at WrestleMania 9. So you see him beat Shawn Michaels on Superstars in a one-on-one contest in a non-title match. And then you see him in the tag match that we saw a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
The six-man tag.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
With Nasty Boys and whoever Shawn Michaels' people were.
Well remembered. I couldn't remember either of the tag teams.
I got the Nasty Boys, and that's all that matters.
Well remembered. I think the other ones were the Beverly Brothers?
Might have been, yeah.
Might have been. Who knows? Doesn't matter. It's only a recap. But they're basically saying Tatanka's beat him twice at WrestleMania. He's going to beat him again.
But to show you how solid he is, he's going to be fighting Apollo in a second. Just some
because
pudgy middle-aged man.
Looks like he owns a pizzeria.
He does. Hey, we're in New York. Maybe it is just Antonio from down the street.
Hey, forget about it. That's my very bad, unconvincing New York accent.
But before then, there is some Rick Martel business going on.
So who is Rick Martel, Nathan? I don't think we've seen this guy before. Who is
he? His character is one of many of just the wrestlers who think they're beautiful. Apparently. He is a model, I guess. He's a part of that crew of having a second job, and he comes out looking like a Cuban drug lord in a yacht hat and a smoking jacket.
See, I've got down, he looks like Richard Gere in Officer and a Gentleman.
Okay, that too.
So he's Rick the model Martel, and he comes down to the ring with a pipe, for some reason.
Just
and
for
he
reasons.
gets in the ring, and he eyes up the lady that's in the ring carrying the Raw sign around, but not in a kind of like, oh, kind of context, but in like, you disgust me.
You're fucking awful.
What a hideous swamp creature of a woman. And it's not even the funny women that we have out that aren't conventionally beautiful.
These are like conventionally more attractive ladies.
I think we skirted around that really nicely. Well done. And he gets the Raw side and he parades around. As we
I was expecting him to strip off his smoking jacket and reveal a bikini underneath or something. So no, this is how you model swimwear, missus.
Oh, so what? Like he was wearing like a matching outfit to the lady in the ring.
That
would
have been funny. But
that would have been well worth.
Like it happening again later. Spoilers.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. As we go to an ad, you get to hear a little bit of his voice, and he's got a weird voice.
He does.
There's something off about it.
But this ad, Blake, what the fuck was this ad?
What do you mean? What's wrong with it?
It was another ad for WWF Mania, which is their Saturday morning show.
Yes.
But whereas before we've had like the kids waking up the parents and haha, whoa, it's kooky. This is just like the most 90s thing I've seen. Like this is like if they tried to hire Bill Nye for this thing. Not Bill Nye, sorry, Bill Nye, the science guy. And it's just like it's like a 90s kids show sort of thing. Like it's just hyperactive colours, a funny man doing a funny voice, reading a book like a science man. I didn't hear his last name. I've just got him down as Todd P.
Oh, that's Todd Pettingale. So Todd Pettingale comes out looking like Beaker from the Muppets.
Yeah.
And like you say, he's doing lots of over-expressive emotions on his face. I can't remember what he said, but basically it
No.
was like a longer version of the advert where Todd Pettingale will stop speaking for about 3 seconds and then pull a weird face and then start speaking like nothing had happened.
Yeah. It's like it could just be because we're old now, but that's too much for me. Like the kids shouldn't be up watching Raw at this hour. This is supposed to be selling the parents on it.
Well, that's what they're saying. Okay, look, and then we've also got a show for your kids on Saturday presented by this creepy man.
It's exactly the same stuff, but you might see less women.
I think I said to you while we were watching the show, it reminds me of that bit at a Peep Show where Jeremy's in the job interview and he's like, it's going too well, so he has to sabotage it. So while the woman like kind of glances over at him, he just pulls like a really randomly sort of like grimacing face and then just goes back to flat like nothing happened.
Yeah, because Todd just sort of smiles weirdly. Like it's not an actual smile. He just bares his teeth like a cornered cat.
So I wasn't a fan of this. I wanted my old caffeine-free advert back.
Yeah, how do we know it's no longer caffeine free?
I mean, looking at Todd Pettingale, he probably is full of caffeine.
And other substances as well.
Now, they never proved that. That was never proven.
I don't know.
So we go from this vastly upsetting advert with Todd Pettingale, which just sort of ended up being confusing and boring more than sort of a valuable piece of TV time.
Yeah.
We come back to the ring, and it is Tatanka versus Phil Apollo. Oh, yeah.
Joe Apollo.
You better believe my boy Phil is going to hand it to Tatanka.
This is a strange matchup.
Phil Apollo is going to be great. So we get a quick start. It is a really weird. It's one of those things, again, we used to see it a lot in the beginning where you'd have, leading up to a pay-per-view, do you remember how it was where it was like you'd have really quick squash matches between one of the guys in the pay-per-view and a guy we'd literally never seen before or since?
Yeah, because we had one, like pretty much everyone who goes against Narcissus.
Yeah, so yeah, Lex Luger basically just gets, like, everyone jobs to Lex Luger.
Yeah. So yeah, they've just got some job in, but you wouldn't expect a jobber to have the name like Apollo. Like that sounds like a name they'd give a proper, like, full-time wrestler.
Yeah, the name Apollo, yeah, but they precede that name with Phil.
Oh, do they? Okay, I've just got him written down as Apollo.
Oh no, he's called Phil Apollo.
Okay, never
That's
mind.
what I mean. Yeah, that's what I mean. He's got a cool last name, so I get what you mean. If that was just his name, then yeah, save it for somebody good. But that's why they've kind of gone, that's too good for him. Call him Phil as well. Phil Apollo.
Okay, you've got a different way with that. I was imagining him like rocking up to the WWF like registration or something, and he says, "Oh, my wrestling name is Apollo," and they're like, "No, that's taken." "Oh, my first name's Phil. Can I just whack that on the front?" "Yeah, go on then."
My name is Apollo1293. Like Twitter handles. Did you see, speaking of Twitter, when I made my Twitter, I've got a fairly unusual name, but I had to end up putting like 6 random numbers after my Twitter name to get a Twitter name that hadn't been grabbed before.
What? That's because you use like your name and initial. You have some creativity.
I'm not a creative person. That's why I do this.
Am I supposed to be advertising your Twitter on the YouTube videos?
No. I'm just bringing it up as like based off my Twitter joke thing that I was talking about.
Okay, fair enough. If you're able to
I don't
find
really use
Blake,
Twitter anymore.
If you're able to find Blake's Twitter, you win a prize.
If you find my Twitter, can you let me know where it is? Because I don't know where it is anymore.
He's forgotten the username. It's stronger than his password.
Pretty much, actually, to be honest. We get a quick start to Tatanka versus Phil. I'm just going to call him Phil from now on. There's some chain wrestling. There's that whole spot where he bounces Phil off the ropes, and Tatanka does this a lot, and it always looks cool, where he drops down as Phil's running back, so Phil jumps over him, and then Tatanka gets up, and as Phil comes back again on the rebound, Tatanka leapfrogs him.
I've got to say,
rather than do that...
Sorry, I was just going to say, on that first leapfrog, it was close. Like, it looks
Yeah.
he barely made that first jump. Like, I don't know whether he just wasn't quite ready when Phil approached him, or whether Phil came in a bit quicker than he was expecting, but, like, I was worried he was about to go arse over tit.
The thing is, trying to get that level of vert as well is difficult. But like you say, if you can't get your feet planted and get yourself ready to get yourself up and over, even though I know they duck and what have you, but it's still like you've got to get 3-4 feet, haven't you? Let's be honest, if not more. So yeah, it did look close. It looked exciting, but I think there was a bit of like you say, maybe he was a bit too snappy on the run back.
Which is it's funny for old Phil, isn't it?
Yeah, I didn't think he had it in him. Maybe Tatanka didn't either. It was like getting up really slowly. He was like, I've got loads of time. So do you think then that's maybe why they do that bit twice? So rather than go back down to the drop down spot, he leapfrogs him, turns, and then leapfrogs him again?
Probably.
To sort of show he can do it. Maybe he's just go, I can do it. Don't worry, everyone. I've got this. There's a section where Tatanka reverses the reversed arm drag, which is a confusing statement in and of itself, and throws Phil Apollo over the top rope. He chases him down on the outside.
He clatters down on the other side as well. I mean, this is one. We've got the wide cam on it, but he just like drops like a sack of bricks on the other side of that apron.
Yeah, there's like falling with grace, isn't there? Then there's what Phil Apollo does.
Because he wasn't mic'd up, obviously, but I imagine if he was here,
or like a so he hit the ground.
Oh, poor Phil.
I know we're ragging on him, but look, come on, we're never going to see him again. He's not going to know. Yeah, so he kind of chased him down on the outside of the ring, and he gives him kind of like just 2 chops, and then gets him back in the ring. And Tatanka's firmly in control. He kind of gets Phil into the corner and gives him some corner chops. And I know we've mentioned it before, but his chops are just beautiful.
Great sound.
They're so crisp and lovely. I like them a lot. And then Shawn Michaels.
Oh, sorry. Before that, I was just going to say it's sometime around here that Macho says something to the degree of, if Tatanka wins at WrestleMania, every Native American would be proud. It's like, maybe don't generalize like that. Maybe some of his family thinks he's an arsehole.
Yeah, like the heel Native Americans.
Yeah.
We know there are many. They're going to be mad because the face Native American has won.
Yeah, but yeah, like you say, Shawn Michaels gets on the line, and I don't know what Shawn Michaels is like as a character at this point, but I keep getting worried that he's going to pull a Rob Bartlett or something. Because he keeps talking about, like, Tatanka's got a fever. I was like, okay, he's not going to make a pox blanket joke, is he?
I didn't hear that bit, but that's great.
But then he starts making like gambling jibes as well. It's like, oh god, is he pulling like Native Americans and casinos together? He's talking about he's talking about WrestleMania. It's at Las Vegas, so it's okay. He's not trying to be racist. Like Rob Bartlett has broken us.
Yeah, he's managed to skirt around that a lot, and
what through his career?
No. I mean, just in this sort of bit where he's on the phone, he does manage really well to kind of put that fear in us and just tease us a little bit with thinking that he's going to say something that we can then look at it and go, that's like something Rob Bartlett would say. But he never quite gets there, does he? Which is nice.
Thankfully.
There's ways he can sort of pass his prejudices off as fair wrestling contests. So there's not really much that Shawn says on the phone. He's basically just talking about, okay, he got lucky when he beat him, and
twice.
Yeah, like when it comes to WrestleMania, it's not going to be third time's the charm. He's going to beat him. While he's on the phone in the ring, Tatanka's stopped in his tracks by an eye rake, and then Apollo slowly. He's too weak. He's too fat and old. He slowly takes over control and slowly works him over a little bit with a punch or two.
Yeah, just yeah.
And Tatanka reverses this into a big slam, like, get out of here with your weak boy shit. He comes off the rope and he misses with the leg drop. So Phil does show some aptitude in getting out of the way of things at long last. I imagine if he was going to get hit by a train, he might just make it out of the way okay. But
unless he put himself there.
Yeah. Anything other than that, like, he's got no chance. He kind of gets a few kicks in the corner to Apollo, to Tatanka from Apollo. He bounces Tatanka's head off the turnbuckle. And I think we've seen Tatanka do this before, where he kind of hulks up. He kind of does his version of it.
Yeah, he sort of skips around. Makes some noise.
I think it's cute. I like it a lot, actually.
No, yeah. If Hulk Hogan can get away with it, Tatanka can do it.
And he's just more energetic as well. Like, it's got more oomph behind it. So yeah, he hulks up, and as he's kind of like doing his sort of hoppy, skippy dance around the ring, I still haven't think of sort of a good way of like describing it or a good name to call it.
Yeah, I like to call it skipping because it feels very Feels very jaunty and happy.
Yeah, it's quite jovial, isn't it? So as he's doing this, he's kind of getting chased around the ring by Phil. Well, chase makes it sound like Phil's getting a wiggle on. Phil lumbers slowly after him around the ring.
He just sort of paces around the same spot and just sort of like punches him in the back as he passes him. He's like, he's just going to come back around. I'll wait.
It's kind of like got one foot planted and he's just turning on one foot slowly with the other, just turning around slowly in the ring.
Next time we get into a bar fight, I might try this. Just try running around the room for a bit and see if they do the same.
Like an oscillating desk fan, just
Yeah.
turning. And what do you mean next time we get in a bar fight? You mean
Shh! I've punched so many men.
we're such cool dudes. So after that brief interlude, Tatanka, hulks up, getting chased around, and Apollo gets dropped by a few clotheslines. So Tatanka comes off the rope, gives him a clothesline. They get up, he does it again. And then he does this really kind of nice, what I'm going to call a drive-by chop.
Yeah.
So, like, he comes off the ropes, and as he's running past, he's like, Chan! Like, slaps him in the tits. It's great. I love it.
Good sound.
And then they get back up, and I think this is his finishing move. I'm now 99% confident in saying this is Tatanka's finishing move. That big Samoan drop that he does.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And he wins 1, 2, 3. And it was a pretty convincing, solid win. Now, at the beginning of the match, when Tatanka gets in the ring, and at the end of the match, he does this thing with his arm.
I wasn't really paying attention to it. Are you suggesting he salutes?
Yes, I am. There
Okay.
seems to be some sort of upward mobility from the right arm towards the crowd, kind of moving up. I'm going to stop doing it into the webcam in case it gets screenshotted by my FBI agent that watches me at all times. And we've got him! Go, go, go! And I end up in Guantanamo Bay.
Yeah, I didn't notice it.
Again.
I don't know why. Maybe I just figured he was fist pumping or something, or I don't know.
It wasn't. If it was with a closed fist, then obviously I'm being facetious. Obviously, he wasn't doing.
He wasn't hiling anyone.
No, he wasn't doing a fascist salute, obviously. But just like the first time he did it, that thought did cross my mind ever so briefly. It's like, oh my god, oh no, sort of thing.
And
I just thought it was quite amusing.
It is. And then our favourite part of the show typically comes up. It's the WrestleMania Report with Mean Gene Okerlund.
Oh, yeah. Now, this one seemed like they're definitely taking it up a notch. There was like a lot more lights and a lot more pomp and circumstance and some dirty, sticky guitars.
There was a lot of like laser sounds, like pew pew.
Yeah, it was a lot more kind of like, hold on to your hats, folks. It's coming. Oh, God, it's coming.
But I love these purely for like the interviews and stuff because it's so interesting to see these people act when they've got time and can be edited.
Sorry, are you suggesting that they edit those?
Well, I just more mean like, okay, guys, we can get like 5 takes of this. Just give it your all on each one. We'll see what happens.
They do seem a lot more. I know what you mean. It seems a lot more. Relaxed is the wrong word, but they seem a lot more kind of comfortable in performing in that kind of area than they would do, say, if they were trying to give this in the ring. It would be a lot of a different atmosphere.
But that's the thing.
So I get what you mean.
Like when they're out on the in the ring and they're giving their somewhat jilted performances, stilted performances. It's a bit funny with like you can sort of appreciate it with the crowd behind them and everything like that. You can sort of say, oh, okay, well they're being cheered, they're being booed, they can be forgiven for this. But when they're in front of a camera and they're giving like the equivalent of a 5-year-old's like nativity scene, it's just extra entertaining.
So did you want to take us through the WrestleMania report, Nathan? The only thing I will say before we get on to the fun bits is I just wanted to talk briefly about how Hulk Hogan's been back 2 weeks in the WWF, and he's already in the main event slot for WrestleMania 9.
Yeah, I mean, but what else do you expect?
I just think that's so disrespectful to Bret and Yokozuna, who have been working all year.
6.5 years, Bret Hart.
Yeah, and not just come in like 2 weeks before and have been elevated instantly to a double main event with Bret and Yokozuna.
That's the power of your name.
I just think it's bad. I don't like it.
But
and
yeah.
if the match is bad, I'm going to be like,
I'm not
That's annoyed
expecting
me
it.
even more.
I'm not expecting it to be good.
Well, I mean, what have you got really? You've got Ted and IRS, who already we've discussed today that we don't think they're all that.
No.
You've got Barber, who we didn't think was all that in his match.
He was okay, like sort of standard, I'd say.
And then you've got Hulk Hogan.
Who I've said before, I do not rate him at all as a wrestler, especially
I
not
don't
now
find
he's
him
getting
entertaining.
on. No.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's going to be. I'm looking forward to the Brett and Yokozuna match. Hopefully that kind of brings out of the bag for WrestleMania 9. But we'll see when we get there. We've got a couple of weeks left yet. There could be some more twists and turns, Nathan. You never know.
Yeah. And speaking of Bret Hart and Yokozuna, like that's the first interview that comes up. You got Bret Hart, who looks like he's fresh from the shower. He is dripping wet.
Yeah, he looks like he got caught in a downpour the way into the studio.
Like his hair is just sodden and stuck to his forehead. But he always looks like that, even in the Ico Pro adverts. I guess like the point they're trying to get across is like, oh, he's always a hard-working man. He's always sweaty and he's like strong and he's serious. But he's
just come back from a hard day's work at the grease factory.
Yeah. But no, he does just look like you say, like he's come out of a rainstorm. And he doesn't really say much of any interest, but he does say that he just needs a little respect. He just wants Yokozuna to respect him.
And that's all he wants.
Just a little respect. Etc., etc. And then
And
I
then
was just gonna say, yeah. You want me to go? Yeah. You want me? Yeah. Okay, yeah. Then we cut to Mr. Fuji and Yokozuna, and I swear Mr. Fuji is wearing a bald cap. Because I don't know whether it's just like the way his forehead is creased, but there is what appears to be a very clear line across his head where there is something sitting atop him.
Nathan, say what you mean. He's got a head like a ball bag, all right?
That's the thing, because it's like perfectly smooth, but like, I don't know whether it's just the way the lights are on him or what, but the top of his head is a completely different shade to the rest of his head skin.
It did strike me as strange as well.
And again, Mr. Fuji is giving all of his usual spiel about Yokozuna, and Yokozuna behind him is just going, yosh, yosh, booyah, bonsai.
He's learnt some new words.
I swear he's a Pokemon.
He's built like, is it Hariyama?
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Please put a picture of him on the screen because no one else other than me and you is going to know what Hariyama looks like.
Okay.
But yeah, he does like sort of, he's got some new words. He does some elbow hitting. He's like hitting his elbow into his palm, into his palm of his other hand. But there's no camera shenanigans this week. It just not got that slow zoom.
No. I will say they're stood in front of a strange backdrop as well. Like it's clearly.
I didn't take that much notice. Go on.
It's because it's the intro scene that they have for the WrestleMania report where they're going for like this weird neon city, but it just kind of looks like, you know, you get those tourism photographs if you stood in front of a green screen or something at the Empire State Building. So it kind of looks like that. It's like, wish you were here with Yokozuna and Mr. Fuji.
Oh, I'd love an option like, you know, when you go to get passport photos taken.
Yeah.
I'd love an option where, like, it's just scrolling down, like, oh, you can get, like, 6 passport or 8 passport. There's just one of, like, Yokozuna on one side of the screen, Mr. Fuji on the other, and then you in the middle, and you can take a picture and have that, like, on a printed out picture.
What do you mean I can't get into Spain with this?
So then we go to the next match in the Royal Rumble that they're pimping out, which I'm sure we're all really excited for. Oh, it's Giant Gonzalez versus The Undertaker.
But you know what does make me excited?
What's that, Nathan?
This promo. Again,
Why is that, Nathan?
I didn't take note of anything that was said, but Paul Bearer and The Undertaker in this era are such an incredible pairing.
I think it's impossible to take down exactly what was said because there's not defined words. I'm sure all the howling and stuff, it basically is making one continuous noise.
Yeah, because like Paul Bearer is just doing his usual thing of and you just can't understand a word he's saying, and then the Undertaker chimes in with and yeah, that's the entire interview. But Jesus Christ, do I want to see more of them.
It looked like they were doing it for like a haunted house graveyard scene.
Yes, the entire thing looks like it's filmed in a fun house.
It was great. And there's a bit where The Undertaker, the only thing I did notice was like, all the other people that wanted to turn the hunter into the hunted are behind me here. And I expect him to like, whip round real quick, like, but he means they're dead and buried
Of course.
in the haunted house graveyard.
And then he like lowers his head, and the shading from his hat covers his face in darkness, and it's a cool look.
It's a really cool effect. I like the fact that he can do that in this sort of setting. In the ring, it's more difficult because it's too lit up. But
Yeah.
in this, they can position it so that he can do that. And he's changed his sparkly silver gloves that he had a few weeks ago to just simple black gloves now. So I'm okay with that as well.
Yeah, but overall, it's a fun interview. I'm just not too looking forward to the Giant Gonzalez.
No, and I was a bit concerned that in the same way we had a promo from Brett and Yokozuna pimping out their match, we were going to have a promo from Giant Gonzalez, who's being managed at the moment by Harvey Whippleman, and after the Undertaker one.
But thankfully, that did not happen.
Thankfully, they don't have cameras in the Amazon outback, and they can't do it.
Well, no, I can imagine they tried to film something, but they thought, you know what, this would be better without this. It's the
This
one
just
time.
looks too stupid.
This is the one time that WWF has said, you know what, this is too unprofessional.
The one time they've actually shown some sort of restraint.
But yeah, that's the end of the WrestleMania report, and it comes back with Vince McMahon doing a bit of flirting with Mean Gene Okerlund. It sounds like.
Yeah, go on.
Because they're talking about Rick Martel and his because he comes back in and does the ring thing again, and Vince and Gene Okerlund said something to the degree of like, "Oh, do you fancy yourself as a model, Vince?" And like Vince says something to the degree of, "Oh, you'll make such a great model, Gene." It's like, "Oh, Vince, steady on. We're live."
Kissable lips, Gene. Yeah, so on the way out to the advert, some really quiet bad singing, I think, from Rob Bartlett.
That would make sense. It's the only one I can imagine on the desk who would actually try to sing.
The only one that I can imagine being that desperate and unfunny that he thinks, oh God, I've got to say something, I've not said anything in a while, let's just sing. You know how, like, I do 99 times out of 100 in a conversation?
Well, the thing is, it's got to be Rob, because Vince, I'm pretty certain, wouldn't sing unless he was, like, actually in the ring and trying to make himself look like a fool. Macho Man, as we both know, only raps.
Yeah, true. That's true.
So it's got to be Rob.
We go to an advert, and then when we come back from the advert, oh no. The next match is Mike Edwards versus a character who the gentleman that plays the character we know later is the Godfather.
Yep.
But back here he's playing a character called Papa Shango. I just like the way that Macho Man says that, so that's why I said it as Macho Man.
Yeah, who I don't exactly know how they describe this character, but he is basically like a voodoo priest, witch doctor-esque character.
Yeah.
I'm trying to choose my words very carefully.
Yeah, same.
But I'm trying to be a lot more careful than they were when they were designing this character for the actor.
I like the fact that, okay, so some cool things about him. He looks like, is it Baron Samedi from one of the James Bond movies?
Yes, he does. He does kind of have that air to him.
Yeah, so he's got like a top hat and he's got like a necklace, it looks like of teeth or something. And it's like, just imagine a stereotypical voodoo witch doctor in your head. That's Papa Shango. He's got white face paint on, in like a skull, and he's carrying a smoking skull with him as well.
Yeah, and
so
it's
like when
cool
he puts
looking.
it on, yeah, when he puts it on the ring post and he leans over, like so his back's facing the ring, and he leans over the turnbuckle, and all that smoke goes up and kind of engulfs his head. It looks really cool. I was like, all right, okay, that's pretty awesome. He kind of reminded me a bit, I know obviously this is later, but a bit of the Boogeyman, kind of.
I don't think I know who that is.
Oh, okay, it's basically just this guy who used to wear like face paint, and he was like a creepy, he used to like jump out the back of hearses at people.
Was he the one who ate worms?
Yes.
Okay, yes, I do know who the boogeyman is.
It sort of reminds me a little bit of him, that kind of same idea of like a creepy, spooky character that kind of can use sort of forbidden voodoo magic.
Yeah.
It's a cool effect, but the camera angle's really bad when we start. Like, I think you missed the first move of the match. It's kind of like positioned at the back, almost by accident, of Papa Shango's head, and there's a lot of dead space to the left of the screen, so you missed the start of the match, which is pretty bad. But Papa Shango beats the living shit out of his opponent for the evening, which is Mike Edwards.
It's fucking brutal, isn't it? Like, he just comes
looks
out and he just
stiff as
smashes
fuck.
him. Is it
It's
Mike?
great.
Is it Mark? Because I wrote down Mark. Written.
I've written down Mike.
It's one of the two. Mr. Edwards.
Yeah. Edwards Esquire. So he gets, I'm just going to use the phrase tooled up because I think that's pretty accurate by Papa Shango.
Yeah.
Like, he gives him like this big, huge slam. There's like a huge leaping elbow drop that he does as well. He gets up really high and looks like he comes down with a lot of force. They work their way into the corner, and it's not wrestling moves. He is just beating him up. Like, he's just punching him over and over and over again.
Which
puts him into the other corner.
I was just going to say, it's a little upsetting because I noticed this about halfway through, but Mr. Edwards kind of looks like a young Bill Murray with a mullet.
Yeah, a little bit, actually. Yeah, now you come to mention it, I can see that. Yeah. He gives him this running knee, and this running knee looks dirty. Like, it looks stiff. It looks like he actually did just knee him in the stomach.
Yeah.
Like, the way he runs in and he delivers the knee, but his forearms and the top of his body sort of like, he kind of grabs hold of the top rope, and so it looks like he's sort of leant into it with the top half of his body. So obviously trying to cushion the blow, but it looks more vicious. Like, he's proper ran in and just like so fast that he's had to like stop himself, else he was going to like tip himself out the ring.
Yeah.
He's run that fast. It gives him a back suplex, like a really deep, wrenching back suplex. There's a near fall, but Papa Shango breaks up his own pin.
Yeah.
Like, he does that whole thing like, no, we're going to go to school today. Like, I'm going to embarrass you.
I'm here to murder you.
And then he kind of gets behind him and like gouges his eyes. Puts his fingers into.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to say, like, because it reminded me, the bit where he breaks up the pin, Vince says something that makes me incredibly uncomfortable in the tone that he says it. But he says something to the degree of, "Oh, Papa's not finished yet."
I
just wanted to point that out.
Moving on from that, Papa Shango, I'd rather talk about him attempting to blind somebody like he does in a minute. Like, he's like basically gouges Mike Edwards' eyes like something out of fucking Game of Thrones from behind. Horrible.
There was something else. I was supposed to mention this like right at the top of the show, but like the first time we have the wide cam on like the first match, there is someone in the audience who's wearing a t-shirt that is just entirely Brutus Beefcake's face. And it looks...
Oh, I missed that.
It's just like a black and white picture of him like doing the side-on kind of weird eye thing that he does. Like, just that strange look. I didn't know that kind of shirt was available.
I'm wondering if they made that themselves at home.
Probably, but every time it cuts to a wide shot, he's sort of like just to the right of the ring, about halfway up the stage. And so
I can look for him now.
But yeah, no, it just caught my eye every time, like a murderous ex or something. Like standing out in the crowd, like, no, not them again.
So he gives him a back suplex, a near fall. Papa Shango breaks up his own pin, and then he gives him like this kind of carrying, hooking back suplex thing, which is really quite cool. Like, he gets him around the midriff and lifts him onto his back. So his back is facing down towards the mat, and he's kind of draped over Papa Shango's shoulder, while Shango holds him with both hands. And then he basically just slams him down. There's a near fall. He gets back up. He kind of taunts Mike Edwards. He kind of says to him, like, you're shit. You can't do a wrestle. You're bad at this. He stamps on his head. So it's just vicious, dirty stuff. He kind of does that thing where he gets a leg each of Mike Edwards and then just kicks him in the knackers.
It's brutal.
Yeah. And then he gives him this awesome looking shoulder breaker. Like, where he gets him over his shoulder and then like drops him, so his shoulder connects with Papa Shango's knee, and basically just falls forward in a heap. And Papa Shango wins easily. Like, it didn't look like he even broke a sweat.
He demolished Mark Edwards.
I don't know whether Mike Edwards even got a strike in.
No, I can't remember if he did.
Like, Mark got no offense whatsoever. Which was a good... I mean, usually when you have these kind of squash matches, you typically have younger-looking men or smaller-looking men. You don't tend to have a middle-aged-ish, sort of kind of beefily in shape man get demolished like that.
No, not typically.
It was a fun match, though. So we go to an advert break, and then when we come back, we are greeted to our next match, which is Bob Backlund, the world's oldest looking baby. He's fighting. So I mean, he's got like his face looks like a baby's face superimposed on an old man's body. He's fighting a guy called. Well, let me just find where he
Tony.
is.
I've got it. Tony DeMuro.
Tony DeMuro, who's a good-looking, as described by Vince, young man.
Mm-hmm.
He's got very thick legs, very sexually impressive, strong-looking legs.
An impressive muscle structure is how I would put it. And Bob, bless him, is 43 years old.
He's on the start of a major comeback, though, Nathan. Like, he's winning matches, he's doing well.
I recognise the name, so he must be like a big name in the business, I guess.
He's come back a couple of times, not to wrestle, but he's in a few Raw Rumbles as like a surprise run-in, and he instantly gets eliminated. He always wears those kind of like brownish, reddish trunks. Always. Even at home or on the plane on his holidays or anywhere he goes.
Kids' prom.
Yeah, whatever. Court dates, whatever.
Funerals.
Go, yeah. Next to Macho Man in his black and white Mr. Sinister gear.
Speaking of Macho Man, the man just cannot get a break in this episode. Like, he hasn't talked much at this point, but like he tries to say something towards the start of this match, and he just gets completely shut down by Vince, who talks over him. Vince takes a second to apologise and says, "Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you." And then Macho says something to the degree of, "Oh, it's all right. I'm always getting talked over. Macho is misunderstood."
It sounds like he's having a bad week.
He's having a bad old time. He's like, "Oh, no one knows what it's like to be the Macho Man."
Ace. That might be like the top joke of the show. So in the ring, they're going for a handshake, but maybe, but no, but maybe, but no. Bob Backlund wants to shake hands with Tony DeMuro. I've not got much written down for this. It's very hard to describe because a lot of it is just very technical,
it's like
proper wrestling.
It's actual grappling, the sort of thing you might see in an American college or something.
Exactly
it's
right.
Reminiscent of what we might see later on when we actually get Kurt Angle in the
like
ring.
William Regal and people like that. There's a few hip tosses from Bob. It's very closely contested. Like, I don't know anything about proper actual wrestling, so I don't know how well each opponent is doing. But Bob keeps trying to slip around the back. There's some hip tosses. You know, there's just some back and forth stuff. Obviously, being 43, he's not got an amazing figure or shape either. Like, he's a very sort of just normal, ordinary, everyday-looking American.
It's like it's kind of impressive to watch because you can look at this and say, okay, this is actually like kind of real wrestling. That's nice to see, but at the same time, you're not there going, "Woo, yeah, fucking get him." You're just kind of like,
it's not very maneuver. It's not very explosive, shall we say?
No.
But Bob Backlund wins the match with a double underhook suplex, which was quite explosive, to be fair. And then he rolls him up, and I'm going to use the terms they use. He rolls him up after shooting the half and riding him for a bit.
And also, it's about this time that Vince offers Rob Bartlett the opportunity to go and interview Rick Martel in the dressing rooms. But like Macho Man is worried that Rob Bartlett's going to get lost somewhere out there. So that
I think you mean hopes.
Hopes, yeah.
You're not worries.
That kind of informs me that even though Rob Bartlett's been working on the show for what, like 8 weeks now, something like that, like they haven't let him into the backstage at all. So the moment the doors are closed, it's like, no, get out with the audience. You're not allowed back here with us.
Like he gets shepherded in every week. He gets plonked in the chair. Then he gets evicted from the arena as soon as the cameras go off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was a clever ploy by Vince McMahon to get rid of him. I thought he was going to go around the corner and there was going to be like a shadowy figure.
Like Doink the Clown or something.
Yeah, just waiting to, like, not even part of the show, just someone there to whack him. Just literally to, like, kill him, like, assassinate him, and then we never have to deal with him again. So yeah, he gets offered that. So as we get the next adverts, presumably Rob Bartlett is making his way towards Rick Martel in the backstage area to do this interview. We get a little bit of talk about Headlock for Hunger, just to break the action up a little bit, and about how they're raising money for Red Cross. There's no exciting interviews for it this time round. There's no one interesting sort of representing it. And then the screen fades up on Rick Martel being interviewed by Rob Bartlett. Rick Martel, as I said, he's got a pipe. I was really hoping bubbles would start coming out the end, like it's a bubble pipe. I was going to make fun of his hat, Rick Martel's hat, but then Rob Bartlett does it at the end. As I said before, I just threw that joke away because I'll be damned if me and him are going to be thinking along the same lines.
There is really nothing to say about this interview, even if
literally...
Even if we can understand what the fuck Rick Martel was saying. But he's just
I've
a mumbling mess.
Yeah, I've just written down literally that the interview happened, just for kind of the record's sake. Just so it's recorded and we're all aware of it. We can look back at our notes and go, oh yes, that did happen. That's it.
But the gist is, Rick Martel is about to fight Mr. Perfect. Martel thinks he's the most beautiful person and that perfection is boring. Let's get to it.
There's an advert, and then up next we've got Rick the Model Martel versus Mr. Perfect. I'm excited about this one. I'm interested in seeing how this goes, and I was really, really hyped going into this. There's a big pop for Mr. Perfect when he comes out, but he does quite an understated entrance. Like, he doesn't do the Lex Luger thing where he comes out with like a cape that he has that's all silvery. He just comes out.
Yeah, and like I really feel like he could have done a bit more with the fans, because there's a fan with like a giant picture of his face, sort of waiting there. He just sort of looks at it and points it, and then keeps walking.
Yeah, I think Mr. Perfect, obviously, he's quite perfectly humble, isn't he? I don't think he likes to draw too much attention to himself. Except when he's like throwing and catching his own football pass down.
Oh, yeah, he did that, didn't he?
He did that. Never forget he did that. He really did that. That wasn't even editing. He's that good.
And Macho Man, again, just kind of seems to be in his own world in this match, because he starts off saying that, oh, I used to tag with Perfect, so my money's on him. And there was a bit earlier in the previous match where Vince asked Rob Bartlett, so who do you think is going to win this match, like between Martel and Perfect? And Rob Bartlett exposes the industry by saying something to the degree of, didn't you tell me earlier that Perfect was going to win it?
Oh, shit, I didn't even notice that.
Which I assume he meant as a joke, but...
Yeah. It kind of said like, oh yeah, like, oh, didn't you say earlier that because he's the face.
Yeah.
But it does sound like exposing the business level chat.
Yeah.
Now I wish he had got assassinated on the way to that Rick Martel interview.
But I think that genuinely upset Vince, because Rob Bartlett keeps trying to make crack wise in this, and Vince just completely ignores him.
Well,
as we love to
dynamic.
hear.
Yeah, that's the kind of like, why change what got you to the dance?
That's a dynamic they always have by the end of the episode, though. At the start, they're interacting, they're responding to each other's jokes. By the end, Vince is sick of him.
You're quite right. It's kind of like every week, before they start the recording, like Vince is in the dressing room going, "Don't let him rile you up, Vince."
I just like to imagine he forgets every time. It's like, oh, my good friend Rob Bartlett. Oh, wait.
It's kind of like, I don't know if you've had this in real life, but where you kind of like meet up with someone you haven't seen in a while, and then you remember halfway through when you're meeting up with them why you don't meet up with them anymore.
So yes, we're doing this podcast remotely now.
You son of a bitch. So, right, forget it. Go home, everyone. So, we have quite an understated intro from Mr. Perfect, and I've just realised I've made a glaring error in my notes. So what actually happens is Mr. Perfect in the ring, not very perfectly, quite grossly in fact, he spits his gum out of his mouth and just slaps it out of the ring. It's quite cool to look at. But what I've actually written down in my notes is he spits his cum and just slaps it. And I don't know where my mind went, but obviously that's...
That's a show I'd pay to see.
Yeah, I've just that's my own sort of desire slipping in there. They lock up. Rick Martel is wearing some beautiful, like, vibrant pink pants, which are quite cool.
Yeah, like it's like garish, but it's kind of cool to see in the ring.
And then they gets Mr. Perfect in a headlock. Mr. Perfect fights out and gets knocked down. Rick comes off the ropes. Mr. Perfect rolls over and slips underneath the run and then jumps up with cat-like agility. He does like this big arm drag as Rick kind of comes off the ropes. There's like a weird kick that Rick does on the ground where he kind of like just thrusts his legs vaguely in Mr. Perfect's direction, and then Mr. Perfect falls over.
Yeah.
Both men get back up in the same beat. Mr. Perfect gets him with a deep, sticky scoop slam. Like it's, Rick kicks again, like just that weird kick thing, which is weird. And they reverse the spots, and Martel gets him with a scoop slam. Not as good, but still pretty impressive for Mr. Perfect.
With the kick, like once is an accident, twice is poor performance.
Yeah. I completely agree. I just don't know if it's the camera angle was wrong or just the way he kind of like popped his body up to get his foot up was wrong. But it did look stilted, jilted, and awkward, didn't it? It
Yeah.
didn't look great. Which is what I'm going to start calling the commentators: stilted, jilted, and awkward. Once I figure out who's who. And it's now Mr. Perfect's time to kind of kick him as he runs in. And Mr. Perfect gets up and there's like a pause. That's like the end of that sequence. Now, I don't know whether you saw the look of fear and panic in my eyes as I was trying to frantically make notes as all that was going on. Because that all takes place in about 10 seconds.
Things went very quick, very suddenly.
I think it just sort of ended in me just screaming, stop, stop, stop at the screen for like a good 5 seconds.
This was the only time we had to pause for the entire thing to like stop and take notes.
Yeah, it was quite swift. It was really impressive, but it's a nightmare to make notes to. So Martel kind of as he kind of gets up from that sequence, he kind of wobbles to the corner. His legs are all wobbly. He's a bit like knocked silly, and the referee stops Mr. Perfect come charging in and is basically continuing to beat him up. They start to circle each other. They lock up. And then Mr. Perfect gets kind of laid against the ropes, and Rick tries to punch him, but like a trained boxer, Mr. Perfect kind of blocks both his punches, like pa-pow, pa-pow, and then goes to punch him himself, and then Rick Martel basically runs away like a big chicken. And again, the referee kind of stops Mr. Perfect, kind of like sort of running after him. And then they lock up. Rick goes downstairs with a couple of knees. He comes off the ropes, and as he's running into Mr. Perfect, he does like a cute little cartwheel.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It was just kind of cute to see. He kind of just goes like, "Hey!" And
Hey, it's spectacle, innit?
Yeah. I quite liked it. And then as he's doing his little cartwheel, Mr. Perfect's like, "Are you taking the piss?" and just stops. And then Rick does a few jumping jacks as well. Mr. Perfect kind of picks the leg, so he kind of knocks him down to the ground, turns around on the leg to kind of maybe get him in like a figure four, like a sharpshooter maybe. Some sort of leg-based submission anyway, with Rick on the floor and Mr. Perfect kind of grabbing hold of this leg. He gets kicked off by Martel using his other leg. And as he comes off the rope, Mr. Perfect, he does his own little cute cartwheel. And there's another thing where I was like, "Way!" which was fun. They go into like really slow circling. They lock up in the corner, Mr. Perfect in control. Rick Martel kind of eye pokes Mr. Perfect, kind of cheating a little bit. Gets him into a headlock. The whole thing gets reversed. Mr. Perfect runs in and like gets a knee to the face.
Yeah, that was a brutal looking knee to the face as well. I assume it was just like well performed, but it looked pretty solid.
It looked good, and as you can tell, the level of detail I'm going in, I'm obviously into this match. I'm obviously enjoying it.
Yeah, and like Vince isn't the only one who seems to be getting a bit tired of Bartlett's shenanigans, because Macho threatens to make Rob Bartlett homeless at some point, and then proceeds to dig further into him, saying he's like not funny. It's like, well, you know, you're funny, but not in a kind of ha-ha way, or something like that. And then Bartlett continues to dig his own grave by bringing up just how many people want to bring Bobby Heenan back.
And I thought to myself, me too, but
Yeah.
I think that was more uncomfortable and unpleasant, that exchange, and awkward than the time Macho Man ripped the headset off of Rob Bartlett mid-broadcast to steal it and use it for himself.
But I am more grateful I'm grateful just as much for this one.
Yeah, I mean, at least I'm kind of disappointed there wasn't as much physical violence as there was then, as like now.
How long will it be until there is a match between Macho Man and Rob Bartlett?
Oh, I would pay anything in the world to see that shit. I need that shit. Back in the ring, the action's going on quite well. The Rick works over Macho Man and gives him like a nice little takedown into an arm submission. Used as like a slow rest spot. It's quite a cute arm submission. It's quite nice. His arms get bunched up behind his head, and then Rick kind of slots his arm through and kind of like basically puts him in an arm submission. So he's standing above him, kind of putting his weight on him. It looks quite cool, but I imagine it's relatively not painful whatsoever.
No.
It's a slow rest spot. They kind of like trade control to back and forth. Mr. Perfect manages to get Rick thrown over the top rope while still in these arm submission, which was cool. And then on the commentary desk, the commentary's more your area, Nathan. I sort of deal with the ring. As we head into the advert break, what begins to happen on commentary?
I've got to say, thank fuck for this advert break, because Rob Bartlett starts doing his Elvis impression again.
Kind of backed into a corner by Macho Man, making out he's not funny. He's like, "Oh shit, I need."
What was the last
guns.
thing people thought was funny of mine? I know, I'll do Elvis again. But no, the ad break. The ad break cuts in, and thankfully that's the death of Elvis again.
Yeah, like the thing is though, as it kind of like starts to move towards the ad break, you can hear like a note of panic in Vince's voice. Like he literally, honestly doesn't want him to do this. And he's like, "No, I think we're fine, thank you. No, we're fine. No, we're fine, thank you."
I like to actually he's got a separate microphone that he just like covers his like commentary on. Says, "Cut to break. Cut to fucking break now."
do not let him do this. I swear to God. So we go to an advert break while an exorcism is performed on Rob Bartlett. When we come back from the break, Mr. Perfect is outside the ring, so obviously some stuff's happened. He gets brought back into the ring and worked over by Rick, who gives him this gut wrench suplex, which is really, really, really nice looking. There's a near fall. I think it gets to a count of 2. Mr. Perfect turns the table then to Rick, trading blows. Rick gets him on the ground and gets him this weird kind of camel clutch style move. And the crowd get behind Mr. Perfect. They're all chanting and cheering and stamping their feet to kind of like will him back into the fight, give him some energy again. So Mr. Perfect fights him up. He kind of gets him off the rope and gets kneed for his troubles. He gives him like a scooping backbreaker. Rick slingshots himself from the apron. So he goes out to the apron, grabs hold of the top rope, and using the momentum and the power, pulls himself back in the ring to try and splash Mr. Perfect. His shins get a little bit tangled on the top rope, but other than that, 9 out of 10 in the Olympic sort of diving board thing. As he comes in, he lands on Mr. Perfect's knees. He gets his knees up and reverses the maneuver. So thinking to himself, well, that high-risk maneuver hasn't worked. I'll try another one. He jumps on the top rope and then kind of comes off in like a Mary Poppins jump. Do you know what I mean? Like where I could almost see him holding an umbrella and just sort of like dropping down to the mat. Like his body and arms don't move. What was he intending to do? As he's coming in, he gets punched in the gut. But if he didn't get punched in the gut, he would have missed him by a country mile.
It did seem a bit pointless.
Yeah, I think Bob Holly does it quite a few times as well. But he did get once bitten on the head by a bear, so maybe he's not all there, really. Mr. Perfect gives him a few kind of atomic drops and chops and strikes. They work their way into the corner. As Rick kind of explodes from the corner, he gets given a big back body drop, which is awesome. Then we go to an advert break.
Mm-hmm.
When we come back, Mr. Perfect's music's playing. He won during the fucking advert break. This is unforgivable.
That's an actual crime. Like, okay, if Rob Bartlett was starting to do another Elvis impression, fine, I would have accepted it.
I'm all right with a trade-off.
That's something I could accept. But someone winning the final match of the night mid-ad break, and you just having to go, oh yeah, he did the perfect plex, here's a quick replay, okay, let's continue.
It's bad, isn't it?
It's not a good look.
I think that's shocking. It's such bad production when that happens. And in a match where one of the competitors is so over as well, to kind of cut away and then to come back and just have to sort of like be like, oh yeah, by the way, he won and here's how he did it. So I reckon it's just a miscommunication. I reckon they just basically, the wrestlers got out of sync with where they should have been maybe, and I don't know.
Who knows? I mean, like the end of these shows always seem to be a very rushed mess. I mean, I suppose when you're doing live television and you're like right before scheduled television, because they've got The Matrix on after this. Don't worry about it.
Oh yeah, there's a really, really cool bit where they start talking, and I thought they were advertising a wrestler. They were like, oh, a man on the run back from the dead, Stephen Matrix is coming next week, and I'm like, holy fuck.
We got a zombie wrestler.
Yeah, they're like, oh yeah, like he's come back from the dead and he's seeking revenge. I'm like, holy fuck, Stephen Matrix! IC champion, here he comes. And then they reveal they're talking about the show Matrix, which goes on after Raw. And I was like, that's not on the network. I can't watch that. Like,
that's the TV show. That's the TV show Matrix as well, 1993, not the 2001 film.
And I like the fact that in the Matrix film, no one's called Stephen Matrix. I think they missed a trick there, Nathan.
Isn't that the main character's name? Isn't that why it's called?
Matrix? Yeah. And Stephen as well. But anyway, yeah, I was excited for like revenging zombie wrestler, but whatever. I'm not going to get that now.
Yeah, like I said, when you try and do live TV in between like scheduled TV slots, I can imagine it's difficult to get the timing perfect. But you can do better than this, surely, than to like squeeze in 2 advert breaks during the final match and have it end during an ad break.
Yeah, so I wasn't best impressed, to be honest. in the advert break, we get to see something which I think I'm going to try and find on an emulator for me and you to play. They advertised the WrestleMania game.
Oh, yeah. Or for the Game Boy Color or whatever.
Yeah. I think it was like for the Game Boy Color. I think it was for the Nintendo 64 as well, if that was out at the time, or the Super Nintendo, one of the two.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna try and get that for us, and we'll do like a little special bit of that at some point as well.
Just have an episode
If we
reviewing the
can be
game.
bothered. Yeah, why not?
We
Like,
will,
I
we
think
will
should do
have
that rather
forgotten.
than-
We will have forgotten literally by the time this episode is over.
Rather than reviewing WrestleMania 9, like the pay per view, can we just call it WrestleMania 9 but review the game?
No.
Oh,
We'll spend more time doing that than we would do if we just did WrestleMania.
that's true. Actually, it's going to be an easier job doing WrestleMania. Mr. Perfect brings back the Raw girls that Rick the Model Martel took away. And one of the camera angles looks like it's going to end up in one of the Raw girls as she steps off the apron. Like it gets right up the gooch. Up
Yeah,
the
it goes
valley,
right
so to speak.
up there. You see some cheeks. Because they're wearing
And-
short shorts.
Rob Bartlett's like, oh, I think we've got a new singing group. Oh,
Yeah,
funny.
I don't get what he's saying. I don't
There's
get
a
whether
man and two women, and they're going to be singers, obviously.
that's not a joke.
Sorry, are you saying that you think that Rob Bartlett has ever done a joke?
You're right. I shouldn't hold him to such high standards.
You shouldn't hold him to the standards that you hold the rest of us to, Nathan, for God's sake.
The man is not on our level.
And then that's the end of the show. So it goes to the titles. We get the copyright symbols, and then we get a little bit of info about what's happening next week. So we've got Razor Ramon's on next week.
Mm-hmm.
We got the Ugandan giant Kamala. He's in action next week as well. And we've got Typhoon, who I don't know if you remember the last time we saw him, listener. We hated him,
Yeah.
and he's taking on Bam Bam Shitalo. So that'll be good.
Someone else who we're not particularly impressed with. So
No,
that's going to be
next week. It's going to be bloody awful.
Yeah, because they're both like incredibly stiff, brutish, like, but also kind of lackluster wrestlers.
So I imagine next week we're going to be in an even worse mood than we're in this week.
So
Okay.
let's end this fucking show.
So Nathan, what did you like? What did you like? Go.
Generally, I thought this episode of Raw was particularly kind of dull. I didn't like that Macho Man was pretty low energy for the entire thing. I mean, even if he isn't like particularly good when it comes to commentary, he's usually pretty good with getting the energy and the actual emotions running to an entertaining level. But if we're talking about matches, like I said, I wasn't particularly impressed with the Matador and Virgil versus Money Inc. But that's just because, like, I expect a lot from Matador and we didn't get a whole lot from him. And Money Inc., as we said, as a tag team, aren't particularly interesting. Tatanka versus Paul Apollo, whatever his name was. Yeah, I like seeing Tatanka, as always. He was good. Papa Shango. I can't say it's good wrestling, because he did actually just go in there and fight Mike Edwards. But that was wildly entertaining. So I'm probably gonna put Papa Shango as my interesting piece of the evening.
Fair play.
How about you, Blake? What did you like? What didn't you like?
Okay, so I didn't like Rob Bartlett and his kind of cavalcade of comedy characters.
That just goes without saying.
Should we just kind of put that as every time we talk about what we don't like, that's just assumed that Rob Bartlett's in there?
It's assumed like our Ric Flair counter.
Oh yes, another week for the Ric Flair counter.
I told you to not, because it's going to be a long fucking time.
We haven't got time. We'll discuss it later. So we've got so things I didn't like. I didn't like I say, a lot of the wrestling, like I say, was quite lackluster. Nothing really seemed to happen this week. Like, there wasn't really anything interesting. The Hulk Hogan section at the beginning was a bit like, oh, okay, more of that. There was some really, really boring bits in the middle from Todd Pettingale, and the commentary overall was just boring. Like, what I did like, I loved Mr. Perfect. Just watching him wrestle was fantastic. I really, really enjoyed his match. His match was my favourite match tonight. I was going to say it now, straight away. But I also quite like you say, Papa Shango. It wasn't typical wrestling.
No.
It was just watching a man take out his anger issues on another man. But it was wildly entertaining. Tatanka, always good to see as well. I feel like all the wrestling matches were very much of one half. Like, one half was really good. Papa Shango was good, but the other guy wasn't. Tatanka was good, but the other guy wasn't. Mr. Perfect was good, but the other guy wasn't.
And
so half of each wrestling match was really good, but none of them were particularly amazing or standout-ish.
There were a lot of squashes this evening as well.
Yeah, I think it's because I don't know. I mean, I think it's just because we're building up again to WrestleMania, so
Yeah.
we kind of have to. We've got like a rotating schedule, and every time the guys that are going to be fighting at WrestleMania are coming on, we have to make them look strong. So if you miss a week or whatever, you can still be convinced that these guys are doing well. I would assume. But
Yeah,
overall, it was kind of a boring, laborious exercise this week.
it was.
I think I enjoyed last week's more, but I can't remember last week's that well, so probably not.
I don't know. I think it's been a fairly boring run of the last few episodes.
Not so much of what we're doing, but it's
No,
the
we're fine.
television.
Don't you dare stop listening to us.
Because I reckon next week it's going to be like I need stupid stuff happening, and it ain't happening here. Is what I'm having problems with.
Yeah.
Like I need ridiculous, over the top bad stuff, like the Undertaker bit.
Yeah, more Undertaker
I need more
and
of that.
Paul Bearer, please.
Yeah, so hopefully next week, if we've got a shit week to get through, hopefully we're going to be rewarded the week after with good stuff. Or maybe next week will be so much of a train wreck, it'll be beautiful and delicious to watch.
Just hopefully it's more interesting than this has been.
Yeah. So until next time, I guess, that was Going in Raw. I've been Blake, a massive wrestling superfan, and my tag team partner, Nathan. Say goodbye, Nathan.
Bye. So, I'm far away
Bye,
from it. Bye.
everyone.
Oh, this feels like such
I'm
a normal ending. We need to have like the sudden cutoff like we normally do.
Oh, I can't be bothered with all that. There's no
Fucking hell. No, I'm keeping this bit in as well.
Oh.